Hi, my name's Moses, author of The Streets versus the Kingdom. I'm a husband, a father of 3, and when I was about 19, I left the streets behind when I became a Christian. Ended up working in investment banking and then leaving that to work and serve in my local church. Now back in finance, and I'm very passionate about seeing young people find freedom through Jesus Christ. So there were many reasons, many things, but it really came down to a head in 2019. I visited about 2 or 3 of my friends in jail, and it's been a long time since I've actually visited them, seen them. As you'll find in the book, I actually went to Nigeria for a couple of years because my parents shipped me out. But when I visited them in 2019, it was difficult because in speaking with them, I kind of realized that their mindset at that moment in time hadn't really changed from when we were back on the roads, back on the streets. And obviously at this point in my life, I knew I'm a Christian now. I've turned away from the streets. I'm living for God and His kingdom. And I recognized I wasn't unique. God had done something in my life. Jesus had transformed me, my mindset and everything else. And all I wanted in that moment and after that was I wanted my friends to have and receive what Jesus had done for me, His salvation, that change in mindset that brought me a new life and brought me freedom from the streets and that worldview and lifestyle. And so that's really the crux of what made me want to write this book. So when it came to, I guess, getting the concept, as I said, after meeting my friends, visiting them in jail, there was just a moment I was working in my church at this time, very frustrated and just thinking, God, I want my friends and others to know you. And so I started writing on my phone what I thought was just a concept. I thought it was going to be a little pamphlet or something like that, a little newsletter. And I started writing, just thinking, what were the things that I used to believe when I was on the streets? What were those things, those myths, those beliefs that were subconscious that kept me bound and enslaved to the street life? And so I started writing them down, literally, money over everything, violence is the way, no snitching, just started writing them down. And in that time, I got six myths, 6 beliefs. And then I started thinking, okay, what was it that Jesus taught me that drew me out of that life? What was the pattern that He showed me in His kingdom? And so I started writing the opposite, and it became this concept of this versus this, the streets versus the kingdom, money over everything versus seek first the kingdom of God. And it just went like that for all of those 6 beliefs. And I think what I came to understand is that at the heart of this matter, the heart of the streets is a worldview. It's a belief system. It's an indoctrination that subconsciously we believe when we're on road. Many people don't obviously look at it in that way, but I think as I started reflecting on what caught me and kept me trapped and bound on the streets and how Jesus set me free, I realized that what I needed and what I believe young boys, young men on the streets need is a complete mindset shift, a complete heart change, moving away from the streets and the belief system that we get given whilst we're on the streets, and a new mindset that Christ gives us when we enter His kingdom. And so this was really the heart behind, I guess, the book concept. That's a good question. I think there was only one that again, as I was thinking about what I'd laid out in the chapters, those 6 beliefs that I wanted to confront and expose on the streets, and then obviously point young men and readers to the kingdom. Probably only one, and that was just the way we look at jail. Again, for many people, no one wants to go into jail. When you're on the road, when you're on the streets, you're not trying to get arrested. But if you do, or if you are arrested, then it's very much about keeping your reputation. Do you know what I mean? Holding your own, making sure that no one takes you for a mug when you're inside. And I've never been jail, and thankfully, but just hearing from others, and again, growing up when I was young, thinking I would go to jail, that was very much the mindset that if I go to jail, I need to hold my own and make sure that my reputation, my status is held up. And so that probably would have been the only myth, but I felt, you know what, the 6 that I've covered in the book so far, I think they are general and they encapsulate, I guess, what keeps a lot of people bound to the streets. A lot of things. I think first and foremost, I want to see young men and women, whoever's trapped on the streets, I want to see their hearts changed. Imagine a young boy saying, do you know what, after reading this book or watching a video like this or listening to an audio book and saying, yeah, money over everything is not really the value system I want to have. I don't want to be chasing money all my life. Forget the 8 ball, forget the Z, forget the ounce. I'm not doing it anymore. And in fact, I want to seek God's kingdom. Imagine a young boy saying that, or a young boy saying, actually, you know what, violence is the way? Nah, I'm not living that way any longer. I'm gonna seek peace. That's what I'm hoping for, that young boys are confronted, young men are confronted with the reality of what they're being fed on the streets. And instead, they are brought into God's kingdom. They find freedom through Jesus Christ. That's what I'm hoping for. Heart change that leads to life transformation and a change in our communities for God's glory. But beyond that, I'm hoping to see, again, parents, youth workers, church leaders, social workers, those who are, I guess, working with young people who find themselves in this situation, empowered, especially for Christians, to be empowered to recognize that Jesus can change everything. He did that in my life, and I don't believe I am unique or special in any way. I believe, yes, I'm special to God, but God does this to countless people, and I have many people who I know who Jesus has done this for as well. So that's what I'm hoping for. And then lastly, that actually as a nation, we recognize that, look, the government can only do so much, but instead we have a God who can do everything. And so my prayer is that this book will lead us to Christ, to recognize that Jesus is the answer to this problem.